of you here today. Like I said, we have one more student, Nathaniel, that will be here with us on Thursdays. And so we're recording the class, so Nathaniel will be able to watch the lesson before he comes back to class. And so, first of all, I'd like to know who here has done some IEW before. I think you've done, did you go to Miss Ann's class?
Yes.
Okay, so you've done it too. Well, good. So all of you probably are familiar with what we're going to be covering today, which is keyword outlining. Does everybody here remember what I'm talking about when I say keyword outlining? Okay. Did any of you all send in a paragraph that you had keyword outlined to Magnum Opus? I sent an email about it the other day to see if you could get published in your magazine. Anybody do that? No? Okay, well, Magnum Opus is IEW's magazine that they produce once a month online. And then in November, they take submissions for their print magazine that comes out once a year. And so I really love Magnum Opus because it gives you a chance to be published. Did you all see the magazine that I sent home with your parents from the parent meeting? Okay. Well, I would like to see all of you in that magazine sooner or later, or either the one online. And so I'm really very motivated to have you all submit things to Magnum Opus and get published. That's a really good thing for you to do. First of all, it gives you a chance to see what the whole process is like when you go to get published. And then also, it looks really good on your high school transcript or either your resume when you go for a job interview sometime. So it's a really great thing to be published. So we'll be talking about that throughout the year. So let's go ahead and talk about keyword outlining. Keyword outlining is the most basic skill that we learn in IEW. Everything else that you will learn, even if you took all 3 courses with me over 3 years, is built on the concept of keyword outlining. So it's such a simple sounding thing when you first start doing it, and yet it has really good potential for helping you become a really competent writer. So we're going to start with that, and let's see. Oh, here's my book. Okay. So let's look at the first section in your handbook, which is on page 22, about keyword outlining, and talk about what it is. Keyword outlining is a note-taking method that's very efficient, and it also helps make your writing sound original. Who knows what plagiarism is? Is anybody in here familiar with the term plagiarism? I bet somebody knows what it is. Abby, you look like you know. You know,
like taking someone's work as your own.
That's right. That's right. Taking someone's written work and using it as your own. Now, sometimes people don't really mean to plagiarize. It's just that they're sitting there with whatever it is they're supposed to be writing about in front of them. And somehow, when you have that thing in front of you, it's very hard to get away from somebody else's way of saying something, right? I call it getting your mind poisoned. Because somebody else's words are there in your head, they're right in front of you, and it seems impossible to find some other way to say it. Has anybody had that experience before? I know I did when I was growing up, so I would be kind of copying things out of the book. We didn't have cut and paste on computers back in the old days. We didn't even have computers. I didn't even have a typewriter. So we would be copying things out of a book and trying very hard to make it sound like it wasn't straight out of the book. So you'd change a word or two here and there, or kind of switch words around a little bit, but it still sounded an awful lot like the original. Now let me ask you this. If you went home and your mom said, well, what did Mrs. Kimbrell teach you in class today? Would you then repeat back exactly word for word what I had said? Just as I had said it? What would you do?
Summarize.
You would summarize, you would give the main ideas, right? And would you sound like Mrs. Kimbrell when you said it? Who would you sound like?
Yourself.
That's right. And so when we write, we want to sound like ourselves but better, because we're going to learn special things that you can do to make your writing sound better and be more accurate. So we want to sound like ourselves but better when we write. We don't want to sound like whatever book it was we got it out of. And besides, plagiarism is considered a crime in school. There's now a computer program when you turn in things in some high schools. You've been in another school, haven't you?
Yeah, Greenbrier.
Okay. Did they have you turning in your papers on?
Yeah, it's called Turn It In.
Yes. It's called Turn It In, and it's this huge database full of everything that's ever been written that's in digital form. And they even add students' papers to it as students turn in their papers, so they can compare your paper to anybody that comes after you or anybody that came before you. And so they are it's very easy for teachers to tell if you plagiarized. And in fact, that did happen to a man that my husband worked with. He was in college, and he told my husband this story. This has been several years ago that he told him, but it had happened several years before that. And he was doing pretty well in college, but he had an English paper due, and he had sort of messed around and not gotten it finished. So he borrowed his girlfriend's paper, who apparently had taken the same class maybe a semester before that. And he changed some stuff, and then he turned it in. And he didn't get caught on it. Nobody said anything. So he was emboldened to try it again. And the next time he didn't change near as much stuff. And so that night he got an email from the professor saying, you know, this percent of your paper is like another paper. And so he was kicked out of the class with a 0, and it ruined his grade point average. And he was so discouraged by that he just quit going to college, which was a shame because he had been doing well. He had just gotten a little lazy. So plagiarism is a serious thing, that if you learn a keyword outline and it becomes natural, which it will be natural for you by the end of the school year, you won't ever have to worry about that, because your writing is going to be different than the other papers. It's going to sound like you. It's not going to sound like it came straight out of some book or off some website. So I really love keyword outlining. Besides, it has all kinds of other uses. Helps you learn to pay attention better when you read, and gives you a way of taking notes in a class if you need to, or giving a speech. You can use keyword outlining for that, so you're not standing there reading off a paper, right? And it takes some practice, but it's a great way to go about doing public speaking. Does anybody in here do speech? Okay. All right, so let's look at page 22 and talk about the 3 rules for keyword outlining. They're right in the middle of the page. And the first rule is you cannot use more than 3 words per outline point. Now, when you make an outline, you have a Roman numeral 1 that tells you the topic of a paragraph. And then usually in a traditional outline, you'll have A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so I know about that, all right? The reason we use numbers when we do this for writing is because, especially at first, we're going sentence by sentence, so we need to have a number of sentences that we're going to actually make notes on. So, and our outlines are not going to get more complicated than that, so we're not going to worry about using A's and B's and C's and going back and forth between numbers and letters. Okay, so the first one is you can't use but 3 words on each outline point. Separate them by commas if they're separated in the sentence. The second rule is numbers, symbols, and abbreviations are free. That means you can use all of them that you want, and they don't count against your 3 words. Okay? But as I like to tell students, make sure that it's a symbol. If you do draw a symbol, make sure it's something you're going to recognize when you come back later if you're going to write, okay? Because if you do some crazy thing, like some kind of scribble thing, maybe you know what it means when you're first making it, but come back to it later and it's not going to be helpful when you go to make write your paragraph, right? So, you know, stick to things like real simple pictures, or I have a whole page, 2 pages full of symbols and abbreviations for you. And that is on page 62. I'm going to turn there really quick, and I'm going to give you a sticky note to go on that. And these are really handy for using in your keyword outline. Saved you some letters, some words. Let's see, page 62. There you go. Okay, so here's a lot of different symbols that you can use in your keyword outlining. I really like arrows. Arrows are useful for all kinds of things, and as you work with this, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so now you've got that marked, so we can go back to page 22. The third rule is you shouldn't try to reproduce an entire sentence using numbers, symbols, and abbreviations in your 3 words. Because if by some chance you were able to get down an entire sentence, every single thing in the sentence using 3 words, numbers, symbols, and abbreviations, when you went back to write it, what would it sound like?
The original sentence.
That is right. It would sound just like the original. And that's what we're trying not to do, right? So, we want, as soon as we can, to get away from the original. And then it's really nice if you can just wait a little while and come back to your keyword outline later and write it then, because you have a chance to get your brain separated from that original, right? But in any case, after you make your keyword outline, you're going to pick it up at that time and give an oral report from your keyword outline to somebody, and that's what you'll be doing this week, to make sure that your keyword outline works for you and that you remember what all the ideas were about. Because work from your keyword outline, writing it down is not that big of a deal, right? Now, y'all have it a little easier than I had when I was growing up, because everything had to be written out longhand. Or if you typed it, you couldn't go back and just delete stuff. You had to start all over again if you wanted to change it. So, but it's still a good thing to think through your keyword outline. That's the hard part about writing, the thinking, right? And so when you struggle with those words and you try to figure out the best way to say it, then when you go back to write it, it's not that big of a deal, okay? So let's try a practice one. Now, who in here has done the see wasp paragraph before? Yeah, you've done the see wasp also. Okay, I'm kind of wondering, well, I was thinking about doing a different one, but we better stick to the one in the book since our book. So, okay, let's look at page 89, and we're going to make a keyword outline for the see wasp paragraph. Now, once you learn how to do keyword outlining, anytime you're writing a paper, even for any other class, it's a really good idea to always make a keyword outline first. In fact, I was talking to my daughter, I think it was Tuesday evening, and she works for a social management company. It's a company that will help their clients with their social networks like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. What are some of the other ones? I can't remember right now. Google, their Google pages. And what they do is a company will come to them and ask them to manage all of that for them, and they will post things for the company that people would be interested in reading about on the different social media platforms. So once every month or two, she has to write a blog post for her company about something interesting that has to do with social media management. Now, this girl, her name's Kayla, had no intention of doing a job that required writing. She went into graphic design thinking she would escape having to do writing. But instead, here she is with this job, having to write a blog post every month or two. And she was telling me about what she had done for her most recent blog post, and she said, and she was trying to explain to my son how to write a blog post for his own website. And he said, I'm having such a hard time getting started. I can't think of how to get started. Well, you all will find out later when we get to the report section that you never start out a paper with your introduction. That's really hard. What you want to do is start out with the middle of the paper with your topics. And Kayla said, yes, I think about 3 things that I can talk about my subject, and I make out a keyword outline for each of those 3 topics, and I write my middle paragraphs, and then I go back and I write my introduction. So here my daughter is, a grown woman with a baby, and she is still using keyword outlines to think about how to get across her ideas. So it's really, really useful. And if you'll make use of it anytime you have writing to do, your writing, whether it's for my class or for some other class that you have to do, your writing is going to be much better than it would have been if you just sat down and started writing off the top of your head, which is what a lot of blogs sound like. People with no structure, they're just sitting down, just writing things as they come to mind. That's okay as long as nobody's going to be reading it. But if somebody's going to be reading it, you need to try to help them by having some structure to your writing. So keyword outlining does that for us. So let's go ahead and I'm going to read through this paragraph, and then we're going to keyword outline it as a practice, okay? The sea wasp. The sea wasp is the most venomous member of the jellyfish family. Its poisoning ability is many times greater than any snake. In its search for food, such as small bottom-dwelling shrimp, sea wasps often move very close to shore and to beach swimmers. It is so deadly that bathers stung by the sea wasp have died in the few seconds it takes them to stagger back to shore. It is almost completely transparent and can be difficult to see. Not found in the oceans near America or Europe, it is considered the scourge of Australia's beaches. This small blob of powerful neurotoxin could likely kill over 50 people. The sea wasp has been called the deadliest creature alive. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm just glad I don't live in Australia. Who would go swimming if you had to worry about that? Okay. Any of y'all heard about the sea wasp before besides in this paragraph? I never heard about it before. I don't like jellyfish anyway, and so this is horrible. Okay. All right, so how we go about doing a keyword outline for this. I am going to write it on the board, and I want you to write it in your book because you might want to go back and review it again for your homework later, okay? So let's go ahead and, does everybody have something to write with? Okay. All right. So the first thing is we have our topic, and that's at the Roman numeral 1, and we know what the topic of this paragraph is because it's in the title, which is very handy. It's not always that easy to tell what a topic is. So we happen to know already that the topic is sea wasp. So you can write that next to Roman numeral 1. So I have to drink water while I'm having class because I talk so much. And my throat gets really dry. Okay. So we'll look at the first sentence because what we want to do is put down some words for sentence number 1 that are going to help us remember what this sentence was about. So let's read the sentence first. The sea wasp is the most venomous member of the jellyfish family. What does venomous mean?
It has toxin that can kill you. It has toxin that can kill you.
Yeah, toxin, okay. Poison, right? Y'all are really quiet, but after a while, you're not going to be quiet anymore. Okay, now there's some words in here we really don't need to waste our 3 words on. Some words that aren't really going to help us that much about remembering, and we've only got 3. Remembering what the paragraph is about, the sentence is about. So what words do you think we shouldn't waste our 3 words on? Any suggestions?
The these and like is and stuff.
Oh yeah, okay. Article, adjectives, the, that isn't much of a verb, is, I mean, that's a, if it was an outstanding verb, a good strong verb, and we really wanted to remember it, we might put down the verb, but this one isn't, so we won't bother with is either. Now there's there's 2 words here that we already know that this is what the sentence is about, so we really don't need to waste our words on these.
Sea wasp.
Yes, sea wasp. Okay, so we're not going to do the or is or sea wasp. Okay, so what are 3 words, and you can underline some words that you think are important that you might want to put down to remember the main idea of the sentence.
Most venomous in jellyfish family.
Okay, most venomous jellyfish family. Okay. Now, if we were to pick those words, that's 4. So we might have to use something besides most. Either we could either get rid of most, or we could get rid of, what's another word we could probably get by without out of those 4? Most venomous jellyfish family. Yeah, we could probably do without family. So we could do let's see. Most venomous jellyfish. How about that? That'll help us remember what the sentence is about. Or if you really had wanted to use the family word, you could have maybe put arrow and up arrow for most, meaning that it was the highest of all the venom. Okay. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Its poisoning ability is many times greater than any snake. Now, do you hear an opportunity there for some kind of math symbol?
Yeah, greater.
Yes, many times greater. We've got, so, greater than. So we have two there, a times and a greater than symbol, right? Do you know what the most poisonous snake in the world is? Anybody know that? Anybody here a studier of snakes? No? The most poisonous snake is called the black mamba, or its nickname is the two-step mamba. And the reason it's called a two-step mamba is because apparently you can take 2 steps after it strikes you, and then you die. Oh, isn't that awful? It has a neurotoxin in it, which oddly enough is the same kind of toxin that's in a sea wasp. A neurotoxin paralyzes the nervous system, so you stop breathing and your heart stops beating. Your autonomic nervous system. So, its poisoning ability is many times greater than any snake. So, knowing that about a two-step mamba, and then hearing that about the sea wasp, we're talking about a seriously poisonous creature, right? Okay. So, what could we put down to help us remember this about the snake? Greater than, more poisonous. Okay, so what is the point of this sentence? What do we learn from this sentence?
Their poison is greater than a snake.
Yes, that's true. So now they used poisoning ability. I think it's kind of clunky personally. I wouldn't do that. I think I would put down, let's see, greater poisoning. Now, I could either put down snake, or if I happen to know about the two-step mamba, I could put down two-step mamba. I think that's what I'm going to do. Two-step mamba. Okay, because I think that's pretty weird and scary, which would make my paragraph more interesting. Okay, now here's a really long sentence, and y'all are going to help me figure out what to do about this. In its search for food, such as small bottom-dwelling shrimp, sea wasps often move very close to shore and to beach swimmers. Right. Just think about that. Try not to look at the sentence while you're thinking about it. What did we just find out about sea wasps in that sentence?
When they move to get fish, they come closer to us, like humans.
Yes, that's a really good way of putting it. So they're searching for food. They are swimming in close to shore, and that brings them in contact with humans. So years ago, one of my students, Joseph Cornelison, came up with this symbol to help him remember that the sea wasp was searching for food. Do y'all know what that is? Anybody played that before? Pac-Man. I don't know what, do people know what Pac-Man is anymore these days? It's a really old video game. When I was in college, that was like the game that we would go play, one of them, a video arcade. People didn't have their own game systems back then. Okay, so So I'm going to use that little symbol here. Let's see. I wonder if where my flag here went. Hold on, yesterday. Okay, what did I give it at? Okay, so I'm going to draw the Pac-Man symbol, and that is going to certainly help me remember that the sea wasp is looking for food. And I liked the way you put that, Brendan, about close to humans. How about that? That's a good way to put it. Okay. It is so deadly that bathers, that's another kind of poetic word for swimmers, that bathers stung by the sea wasp have died in the few seconds it takes them to stagger back to shore. I like that word stagger. It's a very strong verb. It really creates a picture in your mind, doesn't it? Here's somebody, they've just been stung by the sea wasp, and they come out of the water and they're staggering, and boom, horrible. Okay, so if I really wanted to remember that word stagger, would it be okay for me to use it? It would be. It's okay when you see really good words that you like in something that you're reading, you can use those words. You just don't want to sit there and wholesale copy out of a book. But if you find a word that you really, really like in your reading, write it down. Try to use it in your writing. That's what all these words are here. These are words that we've written down from different classes over the years. Some favorite words that people have come across. And it was funny, after we started putting them up on the board, the words started turning up in other students' writing. People say, oh, that's a really good word. I'd like to use that. So there's nothing wrong with using a word that you found that you think is really, really great. You just don't want to sit there and copy a whole sentence. So it is so deadly that bathers stung by the sea wasp have died in the few seconds it takes them to stagger back to shore. Okay, somebody summarize that sentence for me. What do we learn from that sentence?
Their poison is like so quick you can kill them before they're like able to get help.
Okay, your poison is so quick that people don't have time to get help. That's a good way of putting it. Maybe we could say this also. Say it really boring in just 3 words.
People die in 2 seconds.
Okay, great. People die in 2 seconds. People die lightning fast, or, you know, something like that. So we'll just put down, for right now, we'll just put people, stick figure, die, and I'm going to put fast in capitals, because this is my keyword outline, and I can do it how I like. That's going to help me remember. And I might just put seconds here if I want to. Seconds. You know, I think there's different times of the year when jellyfish are more likely to be encountered at the beach, because I can remember times when we've gone to the beach and there were just jellyfish all over the shore. Have y'all ever seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Ooh, yeah, they look like plastic bags full of water. So I'm wondering if the sea wasp is like that. You just don't go to the beach during jellyfish season. I just can't imagine going swimming ever in Australia. Okay, it is almost completely transparent and can be difficult to see. Okay, what's another word for transparent?
Clear.
Okay, all right. So clear, and I'm going to draw an arrow that means so. Clear, hard to see. How about that? I think I can remember what that means. Yeah. Okay. Not found in the oceans near America or Europe. It is considered the scourge of Australia's beaches. So what do we learn in that sentence? That's a very classy sentence. I like how it. But what's the main point that we learn in that sentence?
They're not around America and Europe.
That's true. And what's the other thing that we do learn? That we learn where they are?
They're found in Australia.
Right. So I would just assume that if it's only found in Australia, it's not going to be found anywhere else. So I think I would put only in Australia. And I'm going to put a exclamation mark after it and a happy face. And one more, oh no, let's see. Did I miss? 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I do? Oh. I thought I didn't put enough numbers up here. Okay, so this is really, sorry. This is 5, 6, 7. I skipped number 5. Okay. This small blob of powerful neurotoxin could likely kill over 50 people. Now, I think what he's doing here is he's referring poetically to the sea wasp as a blob of neurotoxin. Okay? So, I really want to make sure I remember that word, neurotoxin, because that's an expensive word. It's not a cheap word, it's an expensive word. And it's a very specific word. It helps you know it's not just poison, it's a particular kind of poison. It's a neurotoxin which paralyzes the nervous system. And that's a really good thing to do in writing, is to be very specific. So I'm going to put, so I'm going to say enough neurotoxin and I'm going to use a down arrow because that is a medical symbol actually. It means to die, to kill 50 people. Okay, so that's how I would do that. Enough neurotoxin to kill 50 people. Or you could just put an X over the stick figure. Some people who are better artists than I am might draw a skull and crossbones, but I'm not a very good artist, so this is about as good as I can do. The sea wasp has been called the deadliest creature alive. Now this is a challenging sentence because if you put down the most obvious words, you're going to have to really work hard not to have a sentence that sounds just like the sentence that's already there. What are the 3 most obvious words?
Deadliest creature alive.
Yeah. So, you don't want to have, you can put that down if you want to, just need to make sure when you write it, you try to use something better. What is, what's another word maybe we could put down for deadliest? Let's see, I've got my thesaurus here. Let's see if deadly is in the thesaurus. I'm going to get this synonym finder by Rodale. I sent the title out. This is the best thesaurus in the world, I think. So let's see, deadly. See what some other good words are for deadly. Okay. Fatal, mortal, lethal, mortiferous. That sounds weird. Deathful, that sounds really old. Pernicious, dangerous, hazardous, deleterious, detrimental, harmful, injurious. Well, there's all kinds of words here. Did any of those strike anybody as a good one we could use? Oh, here's another set here. Murderous, brutal, violent, vicious. What about lethal? I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Lethal. What's another word for creature? Get away from that a little bit.
Animal.
Animal is a good word. Creature, let's see. See if there are any options in here. Animal, beast, brute, varmint. I love that one. Living thing. What do you think? Let's just put down animal for right now. Most lethal animal. Okay. So I think we've done a really good job on the keyword outline, and that we will actually be able to remember what this paragraph is about. You've noticed we have not used the word sea wasp anywhere in our keyword outline, and again, why is that?
Because we already know what it's about.
Exactly. Also, we did not use any article adjectives, a, an, or the. We didn't use any weak verbs. All the words that we picked out are really necessary to helping us remember what our paragraph was about. So the next thing we would do, once we have our keyword outline, is to test it to make sure that we could actually write from it when we get ready to, okay? So I'll start out, it's okay when you're writing or even when you're just saying it and giving an oral report, it's fine to rearrange sentences, put these points together if you need to make it more interesting. You might decide that a sentence that is later in the keyword outline might be better if it went earlier in the keyword outline, earlier in the paragraph. That's fine too. So I'll start out and do the first sentence. I'm going to let you all try some too. Okay. The most venomous jellyfish found in Earth's oceans is the sea wasp. Does mine sound different? It does. And if they ran that through Turnitin, it would not come back saying that it was plagiarized. Okay. Let's see, who can try number 2 for me? Make a sentence with it. Like you were giving a speech to somebody that didn't know anything about the sea wasp.
It's poisonous, or its poison is greater than any other animal on Earth.
Right. And that would include snakes. So he opted not to use the word snake. Is that okay? It is, because we actually already know what he's saying is true from the last sentence, right? So he chose not to use the word snake, and that was fine. Okay, number 3, with the mysterious Pac-Man symbol. Is there somebody who could make a sentence about this?
It wanders close to shore and people in search for food.
Oh, super. I love that. Okay. Okay, what about number 4? And it's okay if you're making a very plain, ordinary sentence. The main point about this is you just want to make sure that you know what your keyword outline is about. You can pretty it up later if you want to.
Could we combine like 7 in that sentence?
You absolutely could. You have an idea?
So, its neurotoxin kills more, could kill more than 50 people in a matter of seconds.
All right. That was a great combination. I like that. Okay, who can do number 5? Brianna's looking like she wants to. Go on, give it a try. How about starting it with the word because? Could you do a sentence starting with the word because for number 5? It just popped into my head all of a sudden that might be a good thing to do. There's no one right answer for this, y'all. Does anybody know what I'm thinking of for that sentence, starting with because?
Because it's transparent. It's almost impossible to see.
There you go. That was a little different than mine, and that's fine. Okay. And is it okay that he opted with the word transparent, which was actually in the original? It is. I like that sentence better than the sentence that was in the original. You know? So, okay. Now, number 6, I would start with the word thankfully.
Thankfully, these creatures are only found in Australia.
Hooray! Okay, and now Abby's already used number 7 with number 4, so we don't have to do number 7. Now, can somebody make us an interesting sentence that doesn't sound just like the one in the book?
Many people consider this to be the most lethal animal, sea animal.
Yes, super. Okay. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? All right. So that's the idea of keyword outlining. So what I want to do now is let everybody try their hand at doing a paragraph on their own. And I've got a lot of practice paragraphs in here. If you just turn the next page over on page 90 and 91. These are really straightforward paragraphs, and I wrote them really boring. They're not at all poetic or artistic like the ones, like the sea wasp one that we just read. So I want y'all to just read through some of these titles and find a topic that you think you might be interested in making a keyword outline about. Try to include some interesting animals here, interesting topics. So pick one of them. And does everybody have their, yes, their file-bound notebook? You can open it up and put Roman numeral 1, and whichever one you pick, say if you were going to do sharks, you would put sharks next to Roman numeral 1. And then just start making keyword outline, sentence by sentence. Read through the paragraph first before you start keyword outlining it. And don't forget that you can use those number symbols and abbreviations. So this is a really good time to ask questions. That's why I have everybody do it in the class the first day. And so if you're thinking about something, wondering about it, probably your classmate is too. But just let me know. I like to leave a space in between my lines because it's just easier when I go back and look at my keyword outline. You don't have to do that on your keyword outline, although we do double space our rough drafts and our final drafts, but it's really just easier to write from the keyword outline that it isn't all bunched up together. Oh, see, Brendan's already doing it that way. As long as you can read it, when you go back to write from it, you don't have to make your keyword outline pretty. You know what I'm saying? Some people are very particular, but it doesn't, you know, if you write something and you made a mistake and you want to scratch it out, you certainly can do that. I don't want people writing whole words and scratching them out so they can still see the words, so that they can really get away with having more than 3 words. I've had people do that before too. But sloppiness does not matter as long as you can read it. Sloppiness doesn't matter on the rough drafts either, as long as you can read it. Okay, good. We've got, wow, we're doing great on time here. Okay, so what I would like to do is have y'all give me an oral report from your keyword outline. But is there anybody that is brave enough to do the whole thing? Okay, I'll tell you what. Everybody can just say their first sentence for me using their keyword outline. Don't look at your book. Okay. We'll see how we can do this. So when you speak, when you're doing public speaking, what you need to do is look at your keyword outline and then look up while you're speaking. Okay? Instead of doing like this. It's hard to do. I forget. I give those instructions and then I sit there and look at the words myself while I'm talking. So let's see. Brendan, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a sentence using your first line of your keyword outline?
So I did mine on seals.
Okay.
And I said these creatures are found in the chilly waters of Antarctica.
Okay. And Brendan used, I'll show you what he did here. He used found chili, and then he has this blue line in Antarctica. That was a good way to remember that. Okay. Let's see. What did you write about, Brandon?
Asian snakes and wyverns. I think I wrote about Asian snakes and wyverns.
Okay. So you wrote about sharks.
Yes.
So your first line says sharks, predators, water. Can you say a whole sentence using those keywords?
Thank you.
Okay. Can you say it for us?
Sharks are the predators of the water.
Excellent. Okay. Abby?
So I did mine on the poles, and the North and South Pole are the coldest places in the world.
Great. Okay. Brianna?
I just put seals and cold climates. Can I redo mine? First one.
Yeah, do the first, now make a whole sentence out of it for me. She drew a cute little house. So I'm assuming that means lives or makes their home in. Okay, so how about saying a sentence with that?
Seals make home in very cold climates.
Okay, seals make their home in very cold climates. I love watching the seals at the zoo. They are so much fun. You ever see them? Oh my goodness, they're so much fun to watch. The only thing that's more fun to watch than seals are otters. They are really fun to watch. They just play and have the best time. Okay, so that went pretty well. So why don't we try another sentence? Brendan.
They build their homes in the heart of the ice.
Oh, I really like that. Look how he did this. I looked at that and I thought, love ice. But he knew what it meant. So this is what Brendan did. He said they build their homes in the heart of the ice. That is very poetic of you, Brendan. And it's kind of nice when you write from something that's really plain because it gives you a little more chance to sort of dress it up a little bit. Let's see, Ryan, why don't you tell us a sentence about where sharks live? You can start with sharks live for number 2.
Ocean, snakes, rivers.
Okay, now say the whole thing. Sharks live in.
Shark lives in ocean, snakes, and rivers.
All right, excellent. Abby.
I'm not sure how to phrase this differently.
That's okay. That's all right. If you can't think of a different way, that's what's hard about. That's the hard thing about writing from really simple things too. They tend to stick in your head.
Yeah.
So
It's the North Pole is found in the Arctic Ocean and the South Pole is found in Antarctica. Like that's basically what it says there.
great. Well,
Not to say.
let's see. That's a good challenging question there. What about, let's see, Antarctica is the continent. So could you make a sentence using the continent of Antarctica? Let's see, the North Pole is found in the Arctic, while the South Pole is located in the continent.
Oh, continent of Antarctica.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you went on, you know, when you go back and you revise, sometimes when you're first writing it or thinking it, it's really hard to think of a different way of saying something, especially if it's really straightforward like that. But that's the magic of revising. There's something about putting something down and then coming back to it later.
Yeah.
Things always improve, you know? Mm-hmm. All right, Brianna.
Mother digs tunnel for the babies.
Okay. The mother digs the tunnel for the babies. Excellent. Now, whenever you say your sentences, when you're giving your oral report, say it like you're giving a serious report about something, okay? Instead of just telling your listener your key words that you wrote down, make a sentence of it, okay? Let's see, I think we might have time to do one more. Okay, Brendan.
Alright, the mothers dig tunnels, and at the end there's the den.
Okay. Did you combine some in that?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought you had.
Mothers dig tunnels, and the den is found at the end of it.
Okay, great. That sounds so cozy, doesn't it? Except it's made out of ice and snow. Okay, let's see. Brandon. Brandon, if I call you Ryan interchangeably sometime, you'll know I'm just sort of...
Yes.
He looks so much like his brother, it's amazing. Okay, let's see.
Sharks prefer warm water.
Excellent. All right, Abby.
The temperature of the water is below freezing, which creates glaciers.
Super. And Brianna.
The sill is very thick, warm fur keeps them warm.
Super. So what you're going to be doing for homework is keyword outlining some paragraphs, and each day you'll keyword outline a paragraph, and then you will give your editor an oral report from the paragraph. The whole thing, though, not just 3 sentences like we just did, okay? And what I would like for you to do when you're giving your oral report is you can look at your keyword outline as long as you want to. But before you speak a sentence, I want you to look up and look at your editor. Does everybody know who their editor is going to be? It has to be a parent or some other adult. Mostly moms usually are the editors, but sometimes dads are. So let's look at our homework assignment sheet. And if you look on page 191, you will see 9 boxes there. And each time between classes, you will have a total of 9 days to write. Day 1 is always the day after class. So in other words, I don't expect for you to go home and do writing homework today. Okay? So day 1 will be the day after class. Day 9 will be the day before our next class. And none of these days are weekend days. So you'll write on Friday, that'll be day 1. And then Monday will be day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. And then the next week you'll have day 7, day 8, day 9, and then you'll come back to class. So I have it arranged so that you're never writing on class day. That day is just set aside for coming to class. I want you to make a real effort to stick to the schedule, okay? And you can make sure that you don't get behind, because especially this first assignment is not really that challenging unless you have to do a whole bunch of it all at once. And there's something about writing that when you do it a certain amount every day, it's better than when you sit down and do it all at one time. That's just the way brains are set up to work. Now, each day, if you turn the page over to page 192, you'll see a checklist. I've already emailed the PDF file that has these checklists in them, so you don't have to tear these out of your book. But you will do a keyword outline of the paragraph, and then you will give your editor an oral report on the paragraph, okay? Your editor will listen to the oral report and then sign that they actually heard your oral report. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those to do, and you don't have to write up any of these until you get to the Brave Dogs paragraph. So after you do the oral report on the Brave Dogs, you'll see that the next thing that you're going to do is actually write your Brave Dogs paragraph, and then you're going to rewrite your Brave Dogs paragraph. Let's see. Yes, you'll do a keyword outline, oral report, write a rough draft of your Brave Dogs paragraph, then you'll do a final draft of your Brave Dogs paragraph. And then after that, you'll do the same thing with the shooting stars. So when you come back, you're going to bring back your homework folder, and it'll be homework folder number 1, and it will have 2 pages in the center, 2 final drafts. Right here in the center, there's pictures in the handbook of how to set this up. And the packet here that will have your composition checklist, all of your keyword outlines in order, and then your rough drafts for the 2 paragraphs will be stapled together with 1 staple and put here in your pocket. It's very easy to see how that is set up just by looking at the pictures in the handbook. So make sure you set them up right. It might seem a little picky for me to say exactly how your pages have to be arranged and all that, but I'll tell y'all something about myself, and that is, although I love reading students' papers, I don't really like grading all that much. And so when I grade, my goal is to get done. And if everything is arranged in a certain way, then I can easily find everything. I know where everything is. I'm not searching through piles of papers trying to find your keyword outlines and that kind of thing. So y'all be real nice to me and get everything in order, because there's actually points on your checklist for putting the papers in the homework folder correctly. There's also points to be taken off if you don't print up a composition checklist for me to use when I'm grading. So all of that is explained in the homework assignments and on the composition checklist. Now take your little tab that you had on your pre-class assignment. Let's see, it was the page before the assignment page that we were just on. Oh no, not that one. The let's see, yeah, this one. And move it to homework assignment number 1. Let's see, there you go. Yeah, so here it is. So we're going to take it and put it on homework assignment number 1, so you can easily find it for this week's homework assignment. Yeah, right here. And if you'll do that each time, you won't ever accidentally do the wrong assignment. I've had students in the past who weren't really paying attention to the assignment page, and they ended up doing like the next week's assignment and thinking, I must not have been paying attention in class. I don't ever remember her even discussing this stuff, because they were doing the wrong homework assignment. So we'll try not to let that happen. Does anybody have any questions? And I look forward to seeing you next time.